This is a Bible verse that I want you to think about today. Come on, boys and girls. Well, we got a lot of you today. You sit on the second row, too. Not everybody sit on the front row. Most Methodists don't. Okay. Read this out loud for me, will you? Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the children of God. That's a Bible verse from a little letter that's in the end of our New Testament called 1 John 3:1. Say it again, everybody. The whole church, say it.
Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the children of God.
I want to teach our boys and girls a song, okay? It goes like this. I'm going to sing it through one time. We're going to see these words first, 2 times, and then we're going to say these words 2 times, okay? It goes like this. Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us. Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the children of God. That we should be called the children of God. Now, you got it? All right, sing it out loud with me, okay? Ready? Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us. Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the children of God. That we should be called the children of God. One more time. Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us. Behold, what manner of love the Father has given unto us, that we should be called the children of God. That we should be called the children of God. I want you all to say something. Say, I am a child of God.
I am a child of God.
I want everybody to say it. I am a child of God. Women want to say, I am a sister of Jesus.
I am a sister of Jesus.
Guys want to say, I'm a brother of Jesus. I am a brother of Jesus. Wow. Isn't that a powerful word? That's good news, isn't it? Because on this earth, there's no higher connection than the one who made us, and that's God. And we are considered brothers and sisters, children of the one Father, Jesus being our brother. Jesus, we're sisters to him. You can go be seated now, and then I want to say just a few words about the passage that Kathy read this morning. I want to change gears just a little bit, but just keep this thought in mind today. How many of you have ever been in a very desperate situation and you needed help? How many of you have ever gotten that help from somebody else that came along and helped you? Okay. We are all at times dependent. We have a lot to do with what we can help people and do for people, but a lot of times we need help. Jesus made himself vulnerable to people in that most of the times that he was eating or resting, he was at someone's house who served him a meal, invited him and his disciples there. He was dependent. He sent his disciples out and said, go and preach the good news. And when you come to someone's house, if a child of peace is there, they will welcome you in. Don't move from house to house. Stay with them and eat whatever they give you. He was sending his disciples out to be vulnerable. I remember a time when I was in the Philippines. Steph and I served there for 4 years, and I was supposed to speak many, many miles away up in the mountains, a place I'd never been. I had a rickety old car. I took off and went up in the mountains on a hillside, far from any village, far from anything. All of a sudden, the car began to just choke up and jam. I couldn't get the gears to work. The clutch was completely burned out. I didn't know it, but it stopped. I knew no one. I was not in an area where people spoke English. The cell phone barely worked, running out of steam, running out of its battery, but I was able to get a call ahead and say, I don't even know where I'm at, but I may be late. I'm supposed to speak tomorrow at a school. I'm trying to make it. And I'm going to do the best I can, but here I am on the side of the road with a broken down car. The truth is, I didn't know what in the world to do. I just said, Lord, whatever's going to happen. After a while, 2 guys came by on a motor scooter. And they said, they spoke English, 2 Filipinos. They said, "Sir, do you need any help?" And I said, "I do." And I showed them what the problem is. They said, "Well, about 7 miles back that way, there's a mechanic. We'll go get him." So they went down and they brought the mechanic back. And he looked at it and said, "The clutch is completely burned out. There's nothing I can do to adjust it. I can't do anything." He said, "But let's get you towed somewhere." They all went back. They got a jeepney, which is a great big long, like a Jeep that's extended that holds a lot of people. But they brought a jeepney up there, hooked me up to it with a rope, and pulled me for 14 miles to get to a place that was a mechanic. But this was Saturday night. They told me how to catch the bus and that my vehicle would be there. The mechanic said, "I'll see what I can do to fix it Saturday night." I took a bus. I kept my appointment. I preached. I got the call, "We've fixed on a Sunday, he fixed my clutch." And I got a bus and came back there many miles. He didn't charge me very much at all. He said he had an old clutch. He put it in and everything's fine. These guys weren't asking for anything. They saw somebody in need, and in a sense they were angels. And in some way, I was Christ to them. Now, I didn't look like Christ. I didn't feel like Christ. But at that moment, I became a little brother of Jesus, and those kind Filipino brothers reached out in aid to a stranger in need. I don't know if they thought that they were helping Jesus by helping me, but the King will say to them on one day, "I was broken down and my clutch was shot, and you helped me." When did we see you, Jesus, broken down? Inasmuch as you did it one of the little brothers of mine, you did it to me. As a teenager, I traveled all over the United States in a 1963 Chevy 2. Far from home, I was feeling lonely. I was further from home I'd ever been. I didn't know a soul. I was all the way in California. And I decided that I would visit Calvary Chapel in Costa Mesa. I sat through a church service. They sang with guitars. It was a Wednesday night. And after the service, a young man came up to me and he asked me my name and what was I doing. And I told him I'm just traveling around. I was kind of being a hippie then. I had real long hair and I could see my feet back in those days. He introduced me to his mom and his dad, and they said, he said, "Where are you staying?" I said, "Well, I'm just sleeping in my car." He says, "Well, just come and sleep with us at our family's place." That family took me in. I got the first shower I had in a long time. That's when I realized the hippie life wasn't all it was cracked up to be. But the third day with no shower, all that peace and love was gone, you see. They treated me to a pizza. I slept in a real bed, and I took leave the next morning because I didn't want to be a bother. They didn't know it, but they were housing and feeding and being a friend to a little brother of Jesus. I was a stranger. And Jesus said, "You took me in." I was Christ to them. I didn't feel like Christ. I didn't look like Christ, but I was a little brother of Jesus, and those kind souls reached out. I don't know if they thought they were helping Jesus by helping me, but they did, whether they knew it or not. So, who has ever helped you? When in your life were you vulnerable or in need of someone to reach out to you? Perhaps it was food during a time of the death in the family, or maybe you needed a visit when you were in the hospital, or maybe you just needed a smile that day, or a little hug, or a greet at the door when you first came here, not knowing anybody. Inasmuch as you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you did it to me. Now we honor this as Christ the King. It's the last Sunday of the Christian year. Next week, we begin Advent, a whole new cycle. But on the very last Sunday of the Christian year, we crown Jesus as Lord. And what does he come like? As a shepherd that separates the sheep from the goat. He's giving us a picture of the end. The king will separate the sheep and the goats. It's not our business to do any of that. In fact, we can't. Say somebody's behaving bad, somebody's unkind, someone's brutal. We don't like that person. Let God be the final judge, because God judges on such a different basis than any of us. Because in that final judgment, when all the nations, all the Gentiles, it said, are gathered before him, he says, "Come and be welcomed into the kingdom that was prepared for you before the foundation of the world. I was hungry." Jesus, I was thirsty. You gave me to drink. I was hungry. You gave me something to eat. I was naked. You clothed me. I was sick and in prison. You visited me. I was a stranger. You took me in. And of course the shock was, when did we ever see you like that? I would certainly have helped you if I saw it. I didn't know it. Inasmuch as you've done it to one of the least of these, my brothers, you have done it to me. And that's my message today. There are opportunities to serve Christ in other people. And when people are kind to you, don't turn it down. Accept it. Because their reward is great. We went to Mexico with a group of young people, and I remember they were poor as everything in the little church that we went to. They sacrificed to be able to support us while a group of wealthy, middle-class young people were there. They killed the chicken. We saw the feet laying there on the floor when we came in. They fed us. Kind of grossed out some of the girls when they pulled the head out of the pot. Then we had a church service, and they took up an offering to give to us. We had more money in our pockets than they had in the whole church, probably. And I said to Steve, the missionary that was translating for us, I said, we can't really do that. He said, don't you ever turn them down. They do this because of God wanting you to have something. They want to bless you. Don't take away their opportunity to be generous. Thanks be to God. Amen.